On This Week in Enterprise Tech, SFPs get smart, big data gets dumb. And are you too nice for Microsoft? Twice on the set.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for This Week in Enterprise Tech is provided by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Twit. This Week in Enterprise Tech, episode 78, recorded February 3rd, 2014. Too nice for Microsoft. This Week in Enterprise Tech is brought to you by RingCentral. The cloud-based phone system we use just got better with the launch of Meetings, the full-service video conference feature. Zero startup costs, and RingCentral starts at under $25 per month per user. Try it now with a 30-day risk-free trial and buy one desk phone and get a second phone free, up to 20 phones. Call 800-543-9980 or visit ringcentral.com and use our promo code TWIT. And by TEKSERVE. TEKSERVE assists U.S. businesses of all sizes with their technology needs, including Apple, Avid, Adobe, and HP solutions. Visit tekserve.com/twiet and receive a complimentary iPad deployment assessment. Welcome to Twiet, This Week in Enterprise Tech. It's the show dedicated to the enterprise professional, the IT pro, and the geek who just wants to know how the world is connected. I'm your host, Father Robert BALLECER, the digital Jesuit, your guide to all things in the enterprise. But of course, I'm not guiding you alone. I brought with me a pack of geeks that are unmatched, starting with my good friend, Mr. Brian CHEE, the geek in paradise, the director of the Advanced Network Computing Laboratory in Honolulu, Hawaii. Brian, I understand that you've got snow over there?
Yeah, we actually had a hiker lost in the snow of Mauna Loa for a while. Boy, anything above 11,000 feet, Mauna Kea and Mauna Loa both have snow. In fact, our observatories are digging out right now.
Well, you know what? We're going to have to chit-chat about what snow does to some of the more sensitive equipment that we might store on those mountains. But before we do that, let's get on to the other member of the panel. You know him, you love him. He keeps us honest. Mr. Oliver Rist from InfoWorld. Yeah. Oliver.
Sorry, sit up.
Yeah. Now, I should say you have no stake in any football game-ish stuff, right?
I am in Seattle or that area, so if I hear one more how great the Seahawks are statement, I'll have to come down there and shoot you.
You know what? That is another reason why I love you. Thank you very much for coming back on. Let's get right to it because we've got an action-packed episode. Let's start with a little enterprise bite. We've got, an interesting story here of how New York City is using big data databases and big data engines to predict where the next fire will be. That's right. They're going across a couple of databases that they use in the city, and they're making a new database that lets them predict where the highest fire hazards might be. Now, this new database includes data points like the neighborhood income, building age, electrical issues, and arson statistics. They use that to make correlations between those data points and where fires tend to pop up. Now, this is a very, I think, benign use of big data, but it seems kind of obvious, right, Cheebert? I mean, this is something that cities should start to look at. When you think about where our personal information is deposited, cities and government institutions have the most. They could put it to use the best.
Well, it's all about, you're trying to avoid the P word. People don't like being called profiled, but that's kind of what you're doing. You're trying to look for profiles on what trigger fires and so forth. Now, one thing that I always try and tell people is like, dudes, if you make this stuff really, really expensive, nobody's going to tinker with it. And that's one of the nice things about a lot of the big data engines, especially our friends at Splunk. You can now sit and tinker with big data engines without having to spend a ton of money. And I'll just bet you money that that's probably what the fire department did. They probably have some fireman that's maybe in an admin position that decided, let's go try it out and see what it looks like. And I'll bet you he probably saw that Major League Baseball example that Michael Wild showed off not the other couple weeks ago, sorry.
Yeah. Oliver, let me go over to you because Cheebert brings up an interesting point, and that is we want to avoid the P word, profiling. I mean, we don't want to just say, oh, yeah, that part of the city is always on fire. We would much rather say, well, here's some data points that we pulled out from commonly publicly available data, and it just shows us that, yeah, these areas tend to need more fire department assistance than others. Is there a way to use big data that isn't going to fall into that profiling trap?
Well, if you're doing it based on neighborhoods, I don't really see how that's profiling.
Okay, I get it. So if you were able to say, look, here's what we did. Here's the process. Here's the database we used. These are the data points that went in there. It's just simple data. There's no one back there going, oh, yeah, that we should go there. Or, yeah, we need to spend resources there. Then it becomes all right.
Yeah, I mean, if they start going into who failed a building inspection and, which building inspectors got bribed and things like that, then yeah, that would be a problem. But if they're just going on historical data, I don't see how anybody can object.
All right. Well, I don't see how anyone should object, but Cheeber, that hasn't kept people from objecting in the past, right? One of the biggest fears about big data is that somehow, some way, it's the way we structure the query, the way we structure the correlation is going to fall into profiling. Right? I mean, we saw this before. We brought up a story here on Twite about 6 months ago when there was a government agency that was looking at the correlation between thefts and mobile phone usage, and they were using data that was coming from those towers. And they were able to make correlations that on paper looked really strong between what neighborhoods have crime and what might be the demographic makeup of those neighborhoods. As it turned out, it was completely wrong. The data was wrong. And I'm sorry, the data was right, but the way that it was correlated was wrong. Isn't that always the big fear of using a big data process?
Of course, you have to be able to ask the correct questions in the correct way. I always tell people, just guys, stop, think, do it by hand before you let a computer do it. Now, I will say, and I will back up, that profiling itself is not necessarily bad if, in certain circumstances. Of all the airports in the world that I've ever gone through, the airport that I felt by far the safest in was Tel Aviv. And our friends, the Israelis, do a whole bunch of profiling. And they do it very successfully, but they do it for the right reasons. So I'm sorry, America, sometimes profiling isn't a bad thing. Just watch the watchers to make sure they're doing it for the right reasons.
Folks, he can be found on Twitter, ADVNLab. So send him all the hate. I'm going to avoid that one. Let's move on to the next story really quickly.
Thanks.
This one is interesting. Microsoft has recognized that right now there's a big problem, not just with them, but with the tech industry in the United States because of recent revelations about the NSA spying program. And so they've offered to build what they're calling transparency centers and allow government clients to explore Microsoft's source code. Now, they announced this initiative at the Munich Security Conference. There's no information about how many centers there are going to be or where they're going to be located, but I think it's pretty clear that they're going to be located in the countries and in the capitals where they're hoping to do business with government agencies. There's also no clear directive of how much source code they're going to share, but it would have to be at least enough for third-party experts, government experts, to come in and verify that there is no backdoor baked into the code. Cheebert, let me go to you. We're seeing this from Microsoft first. This sounds like an initiative maybe that's going to be copied by other high-tech firms because they have to get over that notion that they're all in the government's pocket.
A lot of this isn't necessarily a new thing. It has happened in the past. There's been quite a bit of involvement with three-letter agencies within the United States. There's also been involvement with the German and various other folks in the European Union. Now, the change about this is it's becoming more formalized. Previously, a lot of what I've heard about has been all case-by-case basis. When Microsoft wants to go into a very large contract, they'll go and agree to an inspection of the source code. This is strictly just going in and saying, hey, we're going to be a lot more formal about this. We're going to get our ducks in a row so we can do this faster and easier, and you don't have to jump through quite as many hoops. We're still going to make you jump through hoops, but less hoops so that you can get access to this.
All right. Oliver, let me go over to you because Right now, Microsoft is offering this for governments. So governments who may do business with Microsoft will be invited in to poke around in the source code, probably take a look at Windows, take a look at Office, make sure that there's nothing that's phoning home or nothing that's opening up a back door. But is this something that could be expanded? I'm thinking specifically of a company in the Bay Area, RSA Security, that has a huge image problem right now. Is it something that they'd say, look, we'll let you look at the source code. You can check for yourself to make sure that there's nothing funny in here.
To say RSA has an image problem is kind of understating it.
Okay.
My question is, I've seen this in the news, but I'm a little confused. So the government is what I'm worried about. So Microsoft's going to open its code to the government. And how's that helping me again? Right? And
That's a good
RSA
point.
is basically a subsidiary of the NSA at this point. So I'm not really sure how having them look at it helps me either. Right? If they let the EFF look at it or something similar, yeah, okay, then I'm going to get excited. But unless I'm the director of the maybe Brian's old outfit, those guys, maybe I would be excited by this. But as far as the end user consumer person, this doesn't help me.
Yeah, Brian, let me go back to you here because this brings up an interesting point, and let me raise it. This is not what I personally believe, so please spare the hate. But there are going to be those who say, oh, the only reason why government is sharing, Microsoft is sharing with governments and governments alone, they're not letting the EFF get in here, they're not letting private companies get in here, is because they know governments want to use it to spy, and they just want to make sure that it's set up correctly.
Nah, I'm not going there.
Not even gonna. No bite. No bite.
No. You got to keep in mind that Microsoft, follow the dollars. Microsoft wants these giant contracts, and the European Union has given them a lot of crap about being opaque. So that I don't doubt that they're actually using the word transparency, because that's the number one thing that I've been hearing from the European Union representatives, saying we don't know if we can trust you. Now, as far as the person on the street, no, it's not going to make a whole heck of a lot of difference. Why should the person on the street care? Because the person on the street isn't going to be able to understand multi-millions lines of codes. It's going to be a very expensive process to sift through all those lines of code and try and find them. Some of the best backdoors we have ever seen have been a single line of C code. So why would the guy on the street want to see it anyway?
Got it. Oliver, let me go over to you. I don't want this to be all cynical and a jaded view of Microsoft. So let me add this to the story. So the person who made the announcement, who is Microsoft's Vice President of Security, Matt Tomlinson, also announced at the G20 that he would like to see us forward some sort of acceptable guidelines, some standards for behavior in cyberspace, specifically saying governments need to know that other governments are going to follow certain rules when they send traffic out into the world. Does that change your view at all of Microsoft? Does it make you think, okay, maybe they are trying to do the right thing rather than just follow, as Chibert said, the almighty buck?
Well, one, I'm not condemning Microsoft for this, right? I mean, they're putting out a press release, which I consider to be essentially useless. But if I'm pointing the finger at anybody, it's going to be the three-letter agencies, right? If they find a single line of C code that's a really bad backdoor, my suspicion is that they wouldn't tell us, right? So I don't know how to put it. I guess there's two evils, right? So I don't see either one really being mitigated here.
Got it. All right.
And an acceptable form of behavior, I mean, that's highly vague.
Acceptable form of behavior. Yeah, you're right. That could be anything. Now, let's move on before we start up too much Microsoft hate and talk about, how about crowdsourcing law enforcement? This is an interesting little story that comes to us from the Car Connection, talking about how in December of last year, Roman authorities asked their citizens if they could take pictures of cars that were double parked or parked illegally or otherwise owned by scofflaws. They wanted them to tweet those pictures to the Roman police's official Twitter webpage. Now, with those tweets, with those pictures, they received over 1,100 tweets, and they responded to over 740 of them, issuing several hundred citations. Now, Oliver, I want to throw this over to you first, because I'm thinking maybe you might have an opinion on this. This kind of reeks of fascism, just a little bit, asking your fellow citizen to report on you. But there's also an interesting enterprise angle here in that they used an existing network resource. They use social networking, and they're also using a deep-seated desire within most people to see the rule breakers get punished. Is this something that enterprise could learn from?
In what way? Efficient use of resources? Sure. Evil evil plans and initiatives? Yeah, I don't think corporations need to learn about that, but if they need a crash course, I guess this is a great idea. I think it's awful personally, but
tell me wait, you know what, Oliver, let's air that out. Tell me all the reasons why you think it's awful.
Because it is fascist. I mean,
okay.
Because it starts with a parked car. Then it goes to whatever, somebody at the wrong rally, somebody who says the wrong thing, somebody who's I'm getting a little fantastical, but obviously there is a chain. So no, I don't want to set the precedent.
Okay, I can respect that. I like that. And let me throw it over to your esteemed colleague across the ocean, Cheebert. Is this fascist? I mean, I look at this and I say, here's a government agency figuring out how social networking works. And the way social networking works is you give us something and we give you something. And in this case, it's you give us information about your fellow citizens who are breaking the law, and we will give you the satisfaction of being able to see them get a ticket. This is kind of how social networking works, right?
I'm not sure I like it, but just because I'm going to flip the coin and go on the other side. Have you ever seen the parking in Rome? Oh my God. I swear, the Roman drivers, they must take a crash course in,
Is that an F1 car?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I can believe that. The drivers in Rome, I think the lines between the lanes are just guidelines, I swear, I've seen some of the worst drivers on the face of the earth in Rome. I had to drive in Rome once, and it scared the bejesus out of me. The only other place that scare me more is Tokyo.
Sad.
So,
a little bit sad.
Yeah, I'd like the Roman drivers to behave a little better, and when in Rome.
I guess that's just how we're going to leave it. When in Rome. Now, gentlemen, when we come back, we're going to be jumping into a little bit of the data closet. We're going to be talking about smart SFPs and how they could transform your network. But before that, I want to take a moment to mention one of our sponsors. You know them. You love them. They've been with us since the beginning. They are RingCentral. Now, when Leo decided to build this magnificent studio, the brick house, he decided that we were going to dog food. We were going to put everything in the cloud that we possibly could because we had been telling our audience to do that for years. So all of our scheduling is in the cloud. All of our messaging is in the cloud. All of our document sharing is in the cloud. And when Russell, our IT guy, told us that we could have a full-featured PBX phone system without the actual PBX, without the clunky boxes in the basement and all the messy wiring and the dedicated person to service it, well, it was a no-brainer. We love RingCentral. Zero startup costs, no PBX hardware to install or maintain. And now RingCentral has launched meetings. So in addition to all that we love about RingCentral, receiving voicemails through emails, sending and receiving fax messages from our smartphones, the auto receptionist who greets our callers and announces employees and department extensions, now with meetings, we can host face-to-face meetings in high definition and share desktop or documents with anyone, anytime, anywhere, on any device. Meetings makes RingCentral the single best business solution on the market today. Now, here's what we want you to do. We want you to see if you're going to be able to build your business the way that we built out the brick house. RingCentral offers all-inclusive pricing under $25 per month per user. You can start right now with a 30-day risk-free trial, and they have a special offer for my listeners. When you buy one desk phone, you get a second phone free, up to 20 phones. So call this number, designated for my listeners, 800-543-9980. That's 800-543-9980. One more time, just in case you want to tweet it to the police, 800-543-9980. Or you can go to ringcentral.com and use our promo code TWIT. That's ringcentral.com, promo code TWIT. And we thank RingCentral for their support of This Week in Enterprise Tech. Well, I think maybe it might be time for the data closet. I'm Father Robert BALLECER, the digital Jesuit host of TWIET, This Week in Enterprise Tech on the TWIT TV network. We're here at Interop in the waning hours of the show, and I brought a special treat for you. Mr. Tim Titus, the CTO of Path Solutions. Tim, thank you very much for talking to us again.
Thanks for having me.
The last time you were on, you introduced to our viewers a fantastic solution. A lightweight network monitoring, network troubleshooting solution that installed in 12 minutes and was recording data, was solving your problems by the 13th.
Correct. 18 error counters on every interface so that you're able to finally find those half-duplex interfaces. What we're doing now is we decided to monitor all of the smart SFPs throughout the entire Interop show network. There's some really interesting information that you can glean from these SFPs.
So an SFP are these little modules that you may see if you've ever worked in IT. They can run in 1 gig, 10 gig flavors, and they basically allow us to interconnect our switches, interconnect our gear at that speed. They're connected together via fiber, so like this is optimized multi-mode, which allows us to link together all the devices that we need to make the Interop net go. Now, for those who don't quite understand the significance of what you just said, you're essentially saying that we get OTDR functionality out of the smart SFPs in our switches.
So what we're doing here with Avaya has the capability of getting the smart SFP data off of those SFPs, presenting it via SNMP so that we can end up showing, here's what's actually going on. So this means that anywhere in the show network, if somebody has a piece of fiber and it's sitting nice and happy, nice and straight, but then somebody goes in and they bend it just a little bit too far, we're going to show the light levels received off of these dropped. And with the light level being dropped, you're going to drop some packets.
That's phenomenal. In past episodes of TWIET, we actually showed them what an OTDR looks like. It's a fantastic tool. I mean, this isn't going to replace an OTDR tool from JDSU or from Fluke, but they're also fantastically expensive. You cannot afford, unless you've got unlimited funds, to put an OTDR on every single link that you have in the network. What you're saying is now Path Solutions has leveraged hardware that's already built into these smart SFPs to give you at least the important part of OTDR functionality in every switch.
Well, the trick is that you might own an OTDR and you're wondering, well, this is great. It sits on a shelf because you don't know where to plug it in.
It's not always plugged in. Yeah.
So we're going to tell you, hey, this section of cable here, you all of a sudden had some packet loss starting yesterday at 2:30 in the afternoon. You now know this is where you need to plug in the OTDR to find out what actually went wrong. So it's going to make better use of the hardware that you might have already purchased and is sitting there, because it's going to tell you, here's where you should use it.
I believe we call that a force multiplier. Now, adding to what I already know about your solution, because we use it here at Interop, in that 13th minute, when it starts looking out through all the hardware, when it starts, adding up all the error counters, it will find the smart SFPs and it will start saying, okay, here's my light level. This is what I'm transmitting. This is what I'm receiving. And you can do that across the entire network, which means that if you have a problem in the future, you can actually step back through time and say, well, light level was good here, here, here. Suddenly I've got a 12 dB loss. What's going on?
Right. And so one of the things we figured we'd do is, for all of the show network links, we wanted to watch those so that if somebody went out to a PED, and I believe all of your viewers are familiar with what a PED is.
A PED is, yes.
You go out to a PED and somebody redresses a cable and maybe it's just a little bit too tight, and they do that at 235.
Hold too tight on the Velcro. And
exactly.
Yeah.
That we're going to be able to detect, hey, there's an inflection in that light loss and the received power on that received SFP to be able to say, this happened at that time when Joe was out working on PED 18. You now have correlation between the work that Joe was doing at that time and the effect as to what happened when he redressed that cable down.
And I can't stress enough how much correlation means to a network manager. In the end, it's just a problem that needs to be fixed. But if you can correlate to something, then it means that you can address that in the future.
It's problem solving.
Yeah.
That's
now,
what the whole trick is. It's solving the problem.
We had a discussion on our show about tapping and how it works and how you do it. And one of the things that, a fiber optic tap will do is just bend the fiber enough so you get enough of those photons out so you can read the traffic going through the fiber. Previously, unless you had an OTDR watching at all times, which is unlikely, you're not going to be able to notice that loss. You might notice a loss at some time in the future, but you won't be able to track it back. Now that I can look at correlation, I actually have a really good tool to know if anyone's tapping my longer links.
Yeah, because the minute you start losing photons, it's either due to the fiber turning too hard or a tap stealing those photons.
Stealing those photons. All right, enough of the buzz speak, enough of the coolness. Actually show me how you do this. Show me in your solution what's monitoring the light levels and how I check to see what they look like.
Okay, so effectively you can go into a device that ends up having the fiber links, then go click into the interface that has the fiber link, click into that interface, and you're going to see two graphs. We have the utilization graph, we're showing what the usage is, and we're also able to see what the transmit and receive fiber power is.
And this is all in a single pane of glass, which I love because now it shows me everything that I need to know about my network.
Yeah, your entire infrastructure, so you can protect it and know what's going on with your fiber cable plan.
Right, and because I can step back through time, I can actually look at individual events, things that happened, things that I can correlate to cause and effect, and that helps me plan for the future.
Well, it also allows you to see what happened in the past, because if you have somebody that went into your cable plan and at 3:35 yesterday ended up coiling cable just a little bit too tight, you're going to be able to go back and say we have correlation between, gee, Bob was out at pad number 5 and he coiled the cable too tight at that time. We saw a drop in the fiber receive power. We now know what happened and who did it.
Yeah. I mean, this seems like something that our viewers would really be into. It's something that they should download and at least try in their own IT infrastructures. Where do they get Path Solutions?
Well, best thing is just go to www.pathsolutions.com. We have a full online demo. You can take a look at yourself, just go through the whole product, see the features. Better yet, reach out and talk to us. And what we'll do is we'll put you through a training and show you all those features and show you the capabilities so that you can understand how we're making network engineers' lives better.
Tim, thank you so very much. That's Tim Titus, the CTO of Path Solutions. Thanks for coming on, because every time you come on, we seem to find something new that we didn't know was possible in IT. This is definitely a solution that you should be checking out. I'm Father Robert BALLECER, and you've just been learned. What was that? All right, so for the people who have been asking in the chat room, there's people who are saying, wait, what's OTDR, what's SFP? SFP is this. This is a small form factor pluggable SFP transceiver. The idea is, if you look at a modern switch, an enterprise switch, they'll have your standard Ethernet ports. You all seen them, you love them. They look like the big phone jacks. But they also have these round slots that look like empty rectangular holes. These fit into there, and it allows you to equip it with any type of transceiver that you need, because depending on how you're building out the network, sometimes you need a short range but high speed transceiver. Sometimes you need a longer range, something that will use single mode fiber that goes far, far further for those really, really long runs. You use a different type of SFP. The reason why network manufacturers included SFP was to give you that flexibility in building out your network. They know that you're going to need the standard Ethernet ports, but they're going to let you choose what you use when you want to push it over fiber. Now, Cheever, let me throw over to you. Is this the future of all networking? I mean, these SFPs with the built-in OTDR functionality, eventually that's going to be in everything, right? I mean, once they have the chipset small enough, every manufacturer is going to want to include them in their SFP.
Actually, a lot of manufacturers are going to put them in, but they're typically going to be for uplinks. So you'll use fiber optics to go up the risers in the building. So from the building entrance terminal, the BET, you'll have an aggregation switch of some sort, and then you'll go up the risers, up those galvanized steel tubes that you see in the cable closets. They'll go up that and hit the work group distribution switches and then break out on copper. Copper is still cheaper to go horizontal with, at least for the moment. Now, the really cool thing about SFPs, though, other than, I'm sorry, an SFP port is quite a bit more expensive to manufacture than a standard RJ45. But the modularity means they can stock less devices. They don't have to have a version of the switch for short haul. They don't have to have a version of the switch for long haul. They can just spend a little bit more, put the SFP port in there, and now I can change between different types of optics. Heck, if I can take a standard SFP port and stick in even something like an HX optics, HX is extended range. In theory, it can shoot 80 kilometers over duplex single mode fiber. There's even some new SFPs out where the transmit and receive are on a single strand of fiber. And that's actually what we're using to go from Leeward Community College to the Makaha Cable Landing Station for the Aloha Cabled Observatory. Very cool, but the optics are pretty expensive. But darn, all I had to do is swap out the optics, and now I had a link between Leeward and Makaha.
Yeah. Now, Jason, if you could go to my product camera, on the table here, I have a few different SFPs and a fiber tap. Now, these right here, these are sort of like the plain Jane vanilla SFPs that you'd get. These are actually relatively inexpensive. There's no smart SFP functionality built into these. These are simply 1 gigabit multi-mode transmitters, transceivers. They for shorter runs. This Avago SFP, this is a longer range. So this is a 1 gigabit, but it uses single mode fiber, so I can get much longer range of a link between switches. And then these two, these are smart SFPs. These will support 10 gig over single mode fiber, will get me long distance, and they'll get me that SFP functionality. As Tibert was saying, the reason why they do that is so that I could have one switch, one chassis, and I can choose which module I want to plug in. And what it also means is I can choose how much power, how much I'm going to spend on my network. Over here, we see a tap. This is a standard NetOptics tap. This would allow this fiber to come in from the SFP and then go out to the network, and then I can go ahead and just peek in on the traffic. The reason why we showed this video is because using these smart SFPs, the transceivers themselves would know and would be able to report to software that was looking for that report that someone has cut in on the line, because they'd be able to say, wait a minute, this link used to run at 12 decibels of gain, and now I'm only getting 11. There's something has happened to the line. Either someone has kinked the fiber or someone has tapped it. Tibert, I forget, what's the length limitations on multi-mode and single mode 1 gig and 10 gig?
Yeah, it's kind of like there's lots and lots of different models. They all do different things. But there are, like I said, your typical is maybe 1,000 to 2,000 meters for your short haul, your short haul single mode. Your short haul multi-mode might only be maybe 100 meters or thereabout, 100 to 200 meters, sometimes 300. It's not really about how long can an SFP shoot. It's more about signal to noise ratio. So if you have a really sensitive receiver, you don't need as much power to go longer distances. So when you look at trying to figure out how much power you're really going to need, what you need to do is you need to measure the loss of the link, so the fiber, and you go and find out what the transmission power is and how sensitive the receivers are. So if you take the transmission power, subtract the link loss, is it still within the amount of light that the receiver can tell whether the light is on or off? If it is, that means you get a connection. If it isn't, so sorry.
Right. And that, folks, is how you get learned. Now, when we come back, we kind of backloaded this program with some Microsoft stuff. I know that people get upset when we talk too much about Microsoft, but there was some pretty big news over in Redmond, so we're going to get right to that. But first, we want to take another break to talk about another one of our sponsors, and that is TEKSERVE. Now, here on Twight, I know that we probably don't give Apple enough due for everything they do in the enterprise. I mean, with the rise of BYOD, bring your own device, we're seeing more and more devices that are worming their way into the enterprise conscience from the Apple campus. And that's why we have TEKSERVE, because they are the premier reseller of Apple products. As New York's premier authorized Apple reseller and technology provider, TEKSERVE serves creative professionals at all levels, from individual customers to Fortune 100 companies. They carry a full range of Apple products from iPhones and iPads to iMacs, MacBooks, iPods, and accessories. TEKSERVE also has a range of partnerships with top vendors to facilitate flexible, efficient, and creative solutions for all your business needs. TEKSERVE assists businesses of all sizes to deploy Apple, Avid, and Adobe solutions throughout the United States. Whether you're already committed to iPads or just getting started, from sales to support, process to practice, TEKSERVE can help. Some amazing technology solutions are being deployed on iPads right now. If you've been to the Delta terminals in LaGuardia, Toronto, or Minneapolis, you may have noticed nearly every seat in the terminal is equipped with an iPad. Travelers can now sit anywhere in the terminal and receive real-time flight updates on the iPad or use them to order food, play games, browse the internet, and check email while they're waiting. Over 1.5 million visitors have used these iPads in Delta's terminals just this past year, and the result has been a double-digit increase in food and beverage revenue and the highest customer satisfaction scores in all participating airports. And TEKSERVE really is the natural place to turn for solutions like this because they sell, support, personalize, configure, and manage massive iPad projects. From those Delta terminals to a school with 700 chef instructors to an operation that delivered personally configured iPads to 3,000 cable technicians. TEKSERVE is able to do full lifecycle management for all your technology needs by providing the devices that you need, getting them up and running, teaching you and your staff how to effectively use them, and maintaining them so that they're working efficiently. TEKSERVE also provides ongoing support so that if your enterprise has a problem, help is just a phone call away. If you're considering adding iPads to your business, why not ensure the project's success with the world's most experienced partner? So here's what we want you to do. If your business is considering integrating iOS technology at your workplace, then contact TEKSERVE today and receive a complimentary iPad deployment assessment. Visit TEKSERVE.com/Twyett and TEKSERVE will help you assess your current or future iPad needs and give you advice to make it a success. That's TEKSERVE.com/Twyett. TEKSERVE.com/Twyett. And we thank TEKSERVE for their support of This Week in Enterprise Tech. Brian, Oliver, what do you think? Shall we get into the Microsoft? That was actually a question. I mean, really.
You want to talk about Apple?
Okay, let's do that. We've got a first story here about maybe is modern new Coke. That's right. There have been some unconfirmed rumors that I can't even pronounce them. Wizor, WZOR. They're a Russian site that has a history of getting its hands on unauthorized builds, has shown off a version of Windows 8.1 Update 1 that enables boot to desktop by default. Now, Windows 8.1 enabled the option, but you had to actually go in. You'd have to navigate a little bit to make Windows 8.1 boot to the desktop rather than to the modern, or what we all still call Metro interface. The original strategy was to give developers a true build once, compile multiple times experience. The idea was that you could make your application and then use it across the desktop, the laptop, your mobile tablet, your phone, whatever it might be, as long as it existed within the Windows 8 infrastructure. However, with HP recently allowing users to purchase Windows 7 desktops, especially for businesses and for enterprises, and with Windows 8 not really making much of a dent in the Windows XP share, maybe Windows is now rethinking the if you make it modern, they will come strategy. Cheebert, let me throw this over to you first. What do you think about this? I mean, would it be more attractive for users to have the ability to boot directly into Windows 8.1 desktop rather than have that extra step where it boots into modern and you have to click desktop?
This might be a Oliver question or actually a Mary Jo question. I could have swore that there's a control panel setting where I can actually, after install, set it so I can boot to desktop.
There is
in Windows 8.1. Yes, they added that in Windows 8.1. But the default is still to go ahead and drop you into the modern UI. The rumor, and by the way, Mary Jo Foley countered the rumor in her own report. She said, no, we don't think that's going to be in the finished update. The rumor was, well, no, they're going to let you just boot straight to desktop, so you're going to be able to avoid the Metro interface altogether by default. Oliver, sorry, Cheever?
No, potato. I'm sorry. If for corporate installs, we can already do that in group policy. So I don't see it as being a huge deal, except for maybe integrators.
Right. Oliver, let me throw this over to you because there's a lot of people who are saying, wait a minute, hold up. I mean, on these laptops, these two laptops I have in front of me, which are running Windows 8.1, I have them set to go directly into desktop, but I had to go set it. I had to go, and they didn't make it particularly easy to find. I mean, if I wasn't a dork who's always looking stuff up like this, I may have just given up. They're now saying Microsoft might be moving towards a strategy that would dump the modern UI on the desktop. Do you think is that actually doable?
From a political standpoint, I would doubt it. That would require some senior executive. Oops, I was wrong. Plus, they've invested a lot of money in the modern desktop, and really the only way to get people to use it so far has been to force them to do it. Right. So saying, "Oh, we're going to back off by default now," I don't see that being likely. But then again, they've made dumber choices, so it's certainly possible. But I would expect them to see to use this ability, in different situations. So maybe HP has a business-oriented desktop, for example. Maybe though, in that situation, they default to the desktop. But anything like a Surface or My Yoga aimed at home people, things like that, I would expect them to force me to use the Metro screen, unless I was smart enough to figure out how to go default to desktop, right. Which, by the way, I've done, and it's not very easy.
Now, Oliver, however, the chat room, our chat room is really, really smart. We've got the atheist, who is saying, wait a minute, they already axed that executive. Sinofsky is out, and Bomber is really on his way out as well. Could they say now, oh, well, in the new direction, we realize we want to give the customers what they want, and on the desktop, they don't like modern UI?
They might, but their whole marketing point for the Metro desktop is one experience across all devices. That's how they intend to kick the iPad's butt. If they back off that now, then it's, one OS for Surface and Phone and something else for the desktop. Now they're doing exactly what Apple's doing, and Apple basically, has said it doesn't really care about the desktop Mac anymore. It took them how many years to come up with this new weirdo-looking tower thing? So I don't think Microsoft wants to back off the corporate desktop. That's their bread and butter. So if they're pushing those things, I really don't see them backing off from that message. That is actually a pretty compelling message in some circles.
Right. Cheebert, let me bring that over to you, because Oliver makes a great point, which is the promise of the Windows 8 experience, the ability to develop once and build multiple times, the ability to have that common experience across all platforms is attractive. But in practice, people have been rebelling against it. Even I have said, look, I like Windows 8. I like the kernel. I like what it does on this laptop. I just don't use their UI. I default to the desktop. We've also seen in this update that they're making some concessions to people who say, look, I'm never going to have a touchscreen. It's going to be easier to use the mouse on the Windows 8.1 update. It's going to be easier not to have a touchscreen. There's no longer you should probably just get a touchscreen. Just suck it up and get a touchscreen. Can they continue to say, look, we're dedicated to Windows 8.1. We're dedicated to Windows 8. We're dedicated to modern UI. We're dedicated to have the single platform. If their customers start doing everything in their power to buy Windows 7 or to make Windows 8 look like Windows 7, I guess what I'm asking is this a time for Microsoft to fold and say, we did bad, I'm sorry, we're going to give you what you want? Or do they act the visionary and say, I know it's painful right now, but promise me in 5 years, this is what you're going to want?
Actually, I think Win B in the chat room has it right. If touch enabled, use Metro. That's actually, the Metro interface is pretty good if you have a touch interface. Now, I will make one big complaint. I've been playing with a lot of touchscreen interfaces on Windows 8. But if you don't have a Windows button, like on a tablet where you have that dedicated Windows home button, if you don't have that, you have to call out a keyboard to go and flip back and forth. There's no real easy way of doing it if you're touch only on a non-Microsoft tablet or non-dedicated Windows 8 tablet. So, my planar touch monitors and things like that, it gets cumbersome. So I'd like to see a little bit of work on that interface so that the mouse users don't get left out, and the touch users that aren't on a dedicated touch platform doesn't get left out either.
All right. Oliver, I'm going to throw this to you. I have no idea how you're going to turn this into an answer, but
Thank you.
I've got two Acers in front of me. I got these Acer S7s. I really, really like it. This is probably my favorite laptop of all time. They're touch enabled, and I use the touch. I actually do, and every once in a while I will swap through the modern UI just to see if there's anything new. I'll check the store, but on a whole, I could have the exact same laptop and not have the touchscreen, and I'd be just as happy. Is there gonna be a point where, and I think Microsoft's kind of counting on this, there's going to be that shift where people will say, no, I expect touch out of my laptop and my desktop, and I expect my desktop to act like my tablet and my phone? Or do you think there's going to be forever that dichotomy of, well, I've got this for my phone, I've got this for my tablet, and this is for working on my desktop and my laptop?
2 words: killer app.
Okay.
They don't have it. Right, it's not there. So that's probably one of the reasons this rumor came out, right? Those all-in-ones, I haven't seen sales numbers, but I cannot expect those things to be selling, right? I'm sitting in front of my computer screen right now. I'm on a full-on desktop. This is highly uncomfortable sitting this close to my screen. And this would be how close I would have to sit if I wanted to go touchscreen. And why? I got a mouse, I got a keyboard. There is zero reason for me on a desktop to have touch. And on my little Yoga, which I had to get because Microsoft's forcing me to use Windows 8, Windows 8.1, I boot automatically to the desktop. I have no reason to use touch on that thing, right? And Office is touch enabled, but if you try it, there's no real benefit to it.
I love it. Okay, we're going to leave it on that. Hey, Windows, we need a killer app. Let's move on to the next bit of Microsoft news. This one's actually better, kind of-ish. Well, okay, let's put it in the good news corner because Microsoft needs some good news. And that is Windows 8.1 has become more popular than Vista. Yeah. Okay. All right, let's break this down. We now know that Windows 7 accounts for 47.5% of the OS market. We also know that Windows XP still accounts for 29.23% of the market in far as traffic is concerned, which is strange because that's actually up from October 2013. Windows Vista accounts for 3.3%, and Windows 8 plus Windows 8.1 accounts for 10.5% of the traffic on the internet. Cheebert, let me throw this over to you first. How do you interpret this? I mean, okay, so it's more popular than the least popular operating system in the history of Microsoft, or it's gaining share. How do you look at it?
I hear someone pounding nails into a coffin for Vista.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Vista is the operating system that pushed me to Mac OS 10.
Wow. Okay.
Coward.
Yeah. Am I
Quitter.
going back on Windows? Yeah, Windows 8 might be dragging me back, but I'm kind of hoping that they get a few of these inconsistencies ironed out before I really jump in.
Oliver, you want to pound a couple of nails here?
Was Vista really the most unpopular? I remember Windows ME.
I don't think it was. I honestly don't. Look, I know there was so much hate around Vista, and maybe it was unbaked. And yeah, there was a lot of annoying things like the user access control. But most of the things that were annoying about Vista, I was able to turn off within the first 10 minutes. And then I enjoyed it. It was actually a very good operating system, much better than Windows XP. So, okay, but that's beside the point. I think it was much maligned. But Oliver, to you, when you look at this, when you look at Windows 8 plus 8.1 roughly accounting for about 10% of the traffic on the internet, when you look at Windows, the ecosystem accounting for about 90% of the traffic on the internet, how do you see that? I mean, if you look at that graph, most of those trends are kind of flat. It seems like Microsoft's sticking around 90% no matter what. And Windows 7 and Windows XP are staying the same no matter what.
Windows XP has to be coming down soon. I mean, if you're still running that thing without security, just go outside and shoot yourself. But Vista, I'm amazed that thing's still up. Although I am with you, I wrote that article and actually got death threats in the comment section where I didn't think it was all that bad, but fine. I will, if you want a prediction, 7 is going to continue being the most popular for quite a while, and you can see it. Certain OEMs are still selling 7 because they don't have any customer demand for 8. They'll give a discount for moving to 8 or 8.1, but I think 7 is going to be the default. It certainly would be for me if I was a business CIO buying, and 8. Yeah, it'll grow, but I want to see 8.2 or 9 or something and see if that might compete with 7. But I don't really see 8 being a serious contender against 7 for a long time.
Right. Cheebert, there is this commonly accepted wisdom that whenever Microsoft releases a new operating system, you're going to see this rapid growth just because they're bundling with everything, right? I mean, if you buy a new PC, you have to have it. They said that about Vista. When Microsoft was touting its Vista numbers, people were saying, oh, it's just because you have to have Vista and then you can uninstall it and put in XP. Same thing with 7. Although 7 was a great operating system, people were still saying it's only because it comes on new PCs. 8 might be one that might actually be right, yes? I mean, any new PC that you purchase, notwithstanding HP, is going to have 8 bundled on it. So that 10%, is that just the churn?
Yeah, I think so. One thing that's been really frustrating for me with Windows 8 is the drivers. You know, I actually have grandfathered in some WiMAX USB adapters for me and my wife, and I'm not going to give them up because it's one of the last ones I can get with truly unlimited WiMAX for what I pay a month. But Sierra Wireless is not going to be introducing Windows 8 drivers, whereas I can use that puck on my Mac OS X machines. I can use it on Linux, I can use it on XP, and I can use it on Windows 7. Too many manufacturers are using Windows 8 as an excuse to say, oh, we're going to end of life our products because we're not going to be going and writing drivers for that new operating system. Now, if Microsoft can get people to stop using that as an excuse, then yeah, maybe Windows 8 will get some traction. But there's way too many people saying very publicly, oh, Windows 8 broke this or Windows 8 broke that. And I think that's going to be Microsoft's problem. There's still too much FUD generated by manufacturers not updating drivers, not updating their software to run on Windows 8.
Yeah. All right, let's leave it at that. I think Oliver has the final word here, which is, look, if you're a business, you're probably going to be staying with Windows 7 until Windows 8 gets a killer app. Now, this last story, there's a reason why I kept it to the very last story, because it is entirely speculation, and it is something that I think has been done to death. It came out shortly after our episode last week, and that is that reports are that Microsoft's next CEO will be Satya. Yeah, thank you. Can you say the name? Because I can never say it.
Satya Nadella.
Now, Oliver, let me ask you: Did you ever meet him?
Yes.
You did, and
several times.
Are you under orders not to tell us your impressions?
No, it wasn't like a personal Oliver having dinner with him meeting. It was a large crowd, and he shook hands with everybody. He's the president of the Windows Server Tools division, so that's where I used to work, and he was shaking hands with folks. He's a nice guy.
Okay. Well, we know that he's an Indian-born engineer, so he's an actual engineer. He has tech skills. He has degrees in electronics, computer science, and business administration. He's worked at Microsoft since 1992. He was responsible for launching BizTalk, Microsoft Commerce Server, Microsoft Office Small Business Products, and he's the leader of, most importantly, Microsoft's online presence. Oliver, I want to throw this to you because I think you have the most experience of this panel in sussing out Microsoft's internal organization. There was so much talk when Ballmer first announced that he was going to step down that finally Microsoft was going to get some outside blood to right the ship. They needed to look outside the company to stop being so siloed, and there were a lot of possible candidates for them to bring in. Now that it's known that they're looking at someone from inside, someone who's been with the company since 1992, do you see this as a positive move or a backstep?
One, like you said, it's unconfirmed. Two,
right.
He's one of 10 guys that are still on the short list, and I don't know where the report came from that he's in contract negotiations or whatever. But I'm not lending too much credence to it because I think it will be a bad idea.
Oh.
And well, not that he's a bad leader or anything, although I don't think I wouldn't pick him just based on the skill set. I mean, he's a very server office-oriented guy. I don't think that's what Microsoft needs right now. That division is basically running itself with tons of profit. They have problems elsewhere, and they need, I think, somebody with some experience in other parts. But I'm just talking purely from a board perspective, right? From a share price perspective. Right now, people don't think Microsoft's running all that great. That's part of why the share price is where it is. If they suddenly come out and say, oh, we're not going to let anybody from the outside fix it, we're just going to keep doing what we're doing with the people that we've been using, I don't think that that's going to go over very well.
Right. Oh, maybe I should have done this at the beginning. Quick disclaimer. Do any of us own Microsoft stock?
About 1 million shares.
About 1 million shares?
None.
Okay.
I sold mine.
Okay, good. All right. Cheebert, let me throw this over to you because I think Oliver gives us a really nice perspective on an individual like this. He started off by saying, look, he met him, he seemed nice, he seemed friendly, he looks like he's done a good job at Microsoft. But it sounds to me as if Oliver is saying, if this is real, and of course, the short list is still out there, we still know that this is unconfirmed, but if it's real that Microsoft's looking within, does that just perpetuate the problem that they've been having, that they just can't see the larger picture?
I don't know. I'm not a big fan of hiring from within, especially for a position that has this much impact on a corporation. We need some. I think Microsoft needs some fresh ideas. I like Satya. I've listened to him speak many times at the Microsoft Reviewers Workshops. I think he's a brilliant man, but he's maybe too nice.
That could be a show
Steve,
title. I think you're too nice.
Got to remember, Steve Jobs, God bless his soul, was a real biatch when it came to working with his employees. He really shook up that company, and maybe that's what Microsoft needs. They need someone that's really, really charismatic so that they can try and help fix the public image for Microsoft. But they need someone that's maybe not going to be quite so nice so they can go and get a lot of the problems fixed, shall we say. From what I've seen, there's an awful lot of backstabbing at Microsoft, and maybe they need to learn how to work as a team by someone taking them by the hair and shaking them hard and say, "Play nice, damn it."
Now, I want to end the show with a question from the chat room to Oliver. Oliver Scott Michaud in the chat room says, Padre, isn't that the point? That division is running itself and is crazy profitable despite outside influences. Isn't that what Satya can bring to Microsoft? How would you respond to that?
Well, he didn't bring it, right?
Oh.
He's been president of Server and Tools for a year, maybe, right? The guy who founded it was Bob Muglia. All right, that's the guy who really took it to where it is now, and he's gone. So, again, I'm with Brian. He's a nice guy. I think he's a good leader. I think he really knows his back office stuff. But as far as leading Windows Server and System Center and those guys in a new direction, I didn't see him do that. Mu was already moving towards cloud. I think Satya just kept moving. I don't think he made the wrong decision, but he didn't come out with tons of new innovation. It's business as usual over there, and business is good.
Yeah. Well, I think we'll leave it at that. Gentlemen, believe it or not, we've used up another hour. And that's right, you've used up another hour listening to the best dang podcast for enterprise in the universe. That's according to 12 out of 13 nuns. Now, we want to thank our panel for being here. Starting with you, Brian, every week I count on having you here. You help me with the doc, you help me get guests, you help me find content for the show. You are, I think, the brains behind This Week in Enterprise Tech. Can you tell the lovely folks at home where they can find you?
I am ADVNETLAB at Twitter, and you're more than welcome to drop me a line. I'm very approachable, and the only downside right now is I am going like the proverbial chicken without a head because I've got way too many projects going on all at once.
Including,
not the least of which is trying to finish a book.
A book, but also, isn't there something coming up in March? What do you have in March, T-Bird?
Yeah, silly me, I volunteered to be a coordinator for the Mini Maker Fair in Honolulu. And that's going to be March 15th from noon to 5 p.m. at Iolani School. And entrance is free. And just do a Google search for Honolulu Maker Faire and sign up.
Sir, you are a true geek. Oliver, again, I want to thank you for coming back. It is always nice to have you on the show. I hope we can do it more than every 6 months or so. I know that you're going to be moving out to the East Coast. When do you make that move?
Unknown variable, but the summer is the target time.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You can't make the move until your body heals up from you. You had to lay down your bike. Oh, that's all that's left. But no, seriously, when you started, you gave me a laundry list of all your damages. What was wrong with you?
Oh, just two ribs and this finger, but they're gonna have to break this again now because it healed wrong. So that's gonna hurt.
They have to re-break your finger?
Yeah.
You know they're going to charge you a lot for that. If you want, Cheebert and I can go over and we can.
I actually asked him if I could just go in the garage and get a roofing hammer, but it turns out it's a joint break. So it's
jeez. You know what? That would actually make for a great episode of Know How. So if you want to fly over to Petaluma, we'll help you out with that. No, but seriously, do you want to let the Twiat Riot know where you are and how they can find your work?
Well, I'll be taking over the new web-based exorcism website for the Catholic Church. It's called earlier for that, and it's exorcise your demons via Skype.
Oh my gosh! www.demonsgonewild. All right.
There's actually a guy doing that. What am I doing? I'm working on a secret project. I can't tell you about it yet, but I will tell you as soon as I can. But it is for InfoWorld, so keep going there.
But will you be able to come on to Twiat when this secret project? Okay, well, we'll make that deal. When that project comes out, you're here on Twiat.
Gotcha.
All right. Gentlemen, thank you very much. And thanks to you. That's right, the listener, the person who comes back each and every week for a heaping helping of enterprise geekness. I want to thank you, and the way I'm going to thank you is by giving you a way to get our episodes onto your devices automatically each and every single week. If you go to our show page right now at twit.tv/Twiat, you'll find a little drop-down menu that will give you all the ways that you could get This Week in Enterprise Tech and its audio version on your iPhone, or maybe the low-resolution video version on your iPad, or maybe the high-resolution version on your desktop, your notebook, your Zune, so you can play it on your high-definition screen. Basically, any way you want it, that's the way we'll give it, any way you want it. And I think I just got sued. Also, did you know that we have a YouTube page? If you go to youtube.com/Twiat, you'll find all of our episodes, plus our individual segments, the Stuff My IT Guy Says, and the Data Closet, in all those little bits that will help you to learn what's going on in the enterprise world. Also, if you join there, you'll find out when I do my Hangouts. We actually did have a Hangout already, and very few people showed up because not enough of you are subscribing. So subscribe and hang out with Padre, and maybe Cheebert will join us next time. Also, I want you to follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/PadreSJ. That's at PadreSJ. If you'll follow me, you'll find out who's going to be on the show each week. You'll find out what we're going to be doing in coming weeks, and you'll be able to suggest segments for future episodes of This Week in Enterprise Tech. Finally, did you know that we do this show live every week? That's right, here on Mondays at the Brick House, 2:30 p.m. Pacific time. If you go to live.twit.tv, you'll be able to find us. And if you watch early and stay late, you'll see all the things that don't make it into the final cut, the bloopers, the pre-show, the post-show. It's a lot of fun, and as long as you're in there, why not join us in the chat room at irc.twit.tv. It's part of the experience that is Twit. Finally, I want to thank everyone in the studio who makes this possible, the Carson, my super producer, and the Jason Howell, my super TDs, who normally right now I pretend like I don't know what shows he does on the Twit TV network, and I say something like, Jason, is there a show on Twit TV that helps us with Android?
And then I pretend to know the answer, which would be All About Android, Tuesdays at 5 p.m. Pacific. I'm just guessing.
Yeah, I know. It's one of those things that we just kind of play with. We throw it out there. Yeah, Android. Well, go figure. Well, I'm Father Robert BALLECER, and I just want to remind you, if you want to know what's going on in the Enterprise, just keep quiet.